Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Hero of Kendrickstone, this time with me and the chapter 8, a final battle. So, I hope this doesn't mean that we're gonna die. Anyway, we did very well, I think, last time, where we were at the meeting. We have currently a loyalty of 80%, compassion 70, pragmatism 30, order 75, and freedom 25. Our prowess is, wow, 7 plus 2, so we have 9 in prowess. That's pretty awesome. Plus we get 2 plus 2, 2 plus 2, and 2 plus 2 in Veil, Subterfuge, and Eloquence. Nice. We have a arming sword and a sling. We have a vest of hardened leather reinforced with steel plates. We wear a set of steel plate gauntlets. And still nobody in the entire world had the idea to give us a freaking shield. You know, fingers. Anyway, the next morning you stand in the open field in the shadow of Kendrickstone's keep. A white marble slab sits among the river grass, a stone footprint in the tall, waving strands of freshly sprouted green. The stone is as wide as your outstretched arms and almost twice as long. Intricate carvings work their way across its face, as crisp and detailed as the day they were chiseled, telling the story of the long-dead hero who founded the city that still bears his name. It is the resting place of Kendrick, Giant Slayer. Ready? Their Mildred stands behind you, resplendent in newly polished mail beneath her freshly washed surcoat, her massive steel grey helm tucked under her arm. You turn and nod in reply. You reach into your belt pouch and pluck out a brass ring burnished by decades of use. One of the Duke's servants delivered it to you at sunrise. Remembering the servant's instructions, you feel along the base of the stone slab until your fingers find the indent cut into its side. The ring was made for bigger fingers than yours, but you never planned to wear it. All you need to do is slot the signet into the indent and twist. The moment you do, the stone slab shakes and trembles. Fissures within the carvings open in arcane patterns, sliding the formerly solid-looking slab away slide by slice, like the jagged panes of a shattered window. After a few moments, the stone retracts entirely, revealing not a sarcophagus, but a stairway downward into the darkness. You take a deep breath and step inside. Well, this is... Let's hope this is... Oh, God. I'm so thrilled, you know, it's a... Well, anyway. Commentary, everyone. Top notch. The hallway fills with a soft blue light as soon as you step through. You hear the whispery rasp of a sword being drawn behind you as Dame Mildred moves to guard your back. The tomb smells nothing like the dead at all. Instead, the aroma of fresh cut stone and dust fills the dead air. There is no stench of decay here. You press on, your knightly companion behind. The rattle of her armor, the only sound beyond your own footsteps, but within 20 paces you are brought up short. A slab of stone blocks the path onward. Written upon it is an inscription in bright blue fire. Child of Kendrickstone, what seek you within these sealed halls? How will you answer? I ignore it and try to push the stone aside. I try writing an answer on the door. I declare that I seek Kendrick's Giant Slayer's sword. Not the first one. The second one or the third one seems like a good thing. I try writing an answer on the door. I declare that I seek Kendrick Giant Slayer's sword. I'm gonna go with this one. I seek the sword of Kendrick's Giant Slayer. You declare as loudly and as clearly as you can. Your voice echoes off the walls and down the hallway behind you. The burning words before you flicker out and are replaced with new ones. Only the worthy will take up my sword. Prove your strength, and I will give you my blade and my blessing. With that, the stone slab falls away like a piece of paper, revealing a white chamber beyond. You step into the new room. Its floor is flat and polished like the others, but once again, the way beyond is blocked. This time, instead of a stone slab set flush into the exit way, a massive block stands in your path. At a glance, you can tell that the block isn't set into the ground. You might be able to simply push it out of the way if you're strong enough. Dame Mildred could certainly help you here too. With the two of you working together, you could probably manage it. Alternatively, you could try to lever the block out of the way with your sword. What will you do? No, I'm not gonna get Dame Mildred to help me. This seems like a test for me personally, so I tried to push the stone to the side. You put your shoulder up against the block and push as hard as you can. You feel your boots slip against the smooth stone floor, but you only shift your stance and push harder. Your arms ache and your teeth grind, but finally the block starts to give way. You push with renewed effort, veins bulging from your neck and arms. Little by little, the stone slides to the side. The way ahead is clear. Before you stands another length of corridor, and more words etched in flame upon the floor. Strength of arm will serve you well, but it will not serve you always. Press on, brave adventurer. What can you do but obey? You barely go 15 paces before you come to another obstacle. This time, instead of a stone block, you find an intricate carved door sculpted in nonsensical patterns. Again, letters light up in blue fire before you. The wielder of my sword cannot be clouded by self-deception. Answer this honestly. You are traveling through a chaotic land when you see this before you. Just as you finish reading, the patterns on the stone resolve themselves into a vivid bas relief. Before you stands a scene of death. A carriage lying on its side and around it bodies riddled with arrows. Only one still seems alive, and so sharp is the carving work that you can almost hear his piteous cries for help. On the ground, a man in a fur-lined cloak lies dead, a ruler's crown clutched in his stiff hands. Beside him sits an immense sack. Gold coins spill out of its open maw. The blue flame rearranges itself. Wounded man, gold, or crown? Which one do you go with first? The wounded man, the gold pieces, the crown, I refuse to pay. Well, for me, the wounded man, definitely. You reach out with a finger and touch the carving of the wounded man. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, the carvings melt into fluid, like the rippling surface of a stone pond. When the stone resolves itself again, the picture is something entirely different. Now, 4 carvings stare back at you, each wears your features. Before you stand 4 futures, the blue fire now reads. Which would you choose to prevent? You take a closer look at the 4 reflections staring back at you. The first wears a simple tunic. So vivid is the image that you can see the lines that now carve his face, the frayed edges of your shabby clothes, and the protruding ribs that frame your hungry belly. Around him stands a vast horde of children in rags, each looking up at that reflection of you with smiles and adoration. What? Around him stands a vast horde of children in rags, each looking up at that reflection of you with smiles and adoration. Like my children or something? I'm not entirely sure what that means. The second is dressed in rich garbs of a merchant, his expression proud and satisfied. His belt pouch bulges with gold and silver. He points proudly at docked ships in the background, each unloading a seemingly endless train of shackled slaves. Holy hell. The third is clad head to toe in strange armor made entirely of curved steel plates. An ornate crown sits heavily atop his head, weighing him down. Deep stress carved wrinkles cover his face as the angry faces of great nobles surround him. The last is a wanderer dressed in rags, carrying only a staff in one hand and a tattered pack of belongings in the other. Despite his obvious poverty, Boy walks with a smile on his face, eyes focused on a distant road ahead. Who do you pick? the urchins, the merchant, the ruler, the vagabond. Okay, I know this will sound a bit weird, but I actually still don't know what this one means, and I'm not really familiar with this word. I think this is like a beggar or something like that, but I want to check this word in the dictionary first, so I'll be right back. So, that did not help at all. The urchin is a young, mischievous child, as the dictionary told me. So basically it's a rascal in a form of a child. I never heard that before. I'm gonna read it again because I think I don't understand what the problem is with this one. The first wears a simple tunic. So vivid is the image that you can see the lines that now carve his face, the frayed edges of your shabby clothes, and the protruding ribs that frame your hungry belly. Around him stands a vast horde of children in rags, each looking up at that reflection of you with smiles and adoration. So that's probably living in poverty with my family. I apologize that this is something that I'm not entirely sure that it's so bad. Probably it means like living as a commoner, you know, having that basic thing. But that's not the one that I would like to prevent. Definitely the slaves. So, the merchant. You point to the mirror image of yourself as a rich, self-satisfied merchant. The stone ripples again, but this time the carvings smooth into a flat surface. On its face, new letters burn themselves in bright flame. You have proven to know yourself, both your desires and fears. Furthermore, you have proven yourself honest to others, but also to yourself. Proceed, brave adventurer. The sword awaits. With that, the stone falls away, like ice before a roaring flame, leaving the path open. Zygmunt, comes Dame Mildred's voice from behind you. What just happened? You turn around puzzled. Didn't you see it? The knight shakes her head. See what? You stared at that wall for a few moments, and then those letters appeared and the path opened. Her expression turns to concern. Are you alright? So it was all in your mind? You nod, trying not to let the thought of that unnerve you. I'm fine, let's keep going. You step through the doorway to find yourself in an immense domed chamber, easily large enough to fit an entire house. How such a gigantic room is able to fit underground, you have no idea, but that really isn't the first thing on your mind. No, the first thing on your mind is a simple stone bier in the center of the chamber. For sitting on its polished stone top is a finely worked sword, its blade shining like fire. The sword of Kendrick Giantslayer. The stone floor seems stable as you walk towards the bier, but you move no further than a few steps before the ground begins to shake. Apparently, the chamber isn't as well built as you hoped. The floor begins to crack and fall away. Chunks of stone the size of horses crumble, leaving only gaping holes in the floor. Worse yet, the bier itself and its precious burden seems to be on the verge of disappearing as well. You prepare to make a dash for the weapon when you hear a scream behind you. Zygmunt, help me! You turn around to see Dame Mildred dangling from the edge of the collapsing floor, just a handhold away from the abyss. Help me, Zygmunt, she cries piteously. Help me, please! A glance over your shoulder shows you the sword slipping off the edge of the bier, about to fall into the darkness below. If you waste any time now, the blade will be lost forever. I'm slipping, comes a shout, muffled by sobs. Help! Your mind whirls with sudden suspicion. You've served the knight for nearly a year now. You've seen her face death and danger with nothing more than an acid-tongued remark. The panicky, sobbing wreck dangling from the edge of the floor is nothing like her. You can't help but be reminded of the moral dilemma in the old stories, where the hero is offered a choice between riches and act of goodness. You can't think of a single one of those stories where anybody benefits from taking the greedy option. The sword has almost slipped off the bier now. You've got no time to lose. What do? I actually don't need this at all, because whatever happens, if that's a miracle or not, and I lose the sword, I will always rescue Dame Mildred. I rescue Dame Mildred. You run to the edge of the floor, even as it continues to buckle and fracture under your feet. With one hand, you reach for the kicking flailing form and grab the distressed knight's arm. You dig your heels into the crumbling floor and pull her up, even as you hear the clatter of the fabled sword, the goal of your quest, tumble into the abyss. A moment later, everything disappears. The sword, the bier, the knight, the room, all of it. You find yourself staring at a blank wall, not 3 steps into the final chamber. Blue letters burn on the stone before you, bright and triumphant. Only those willing to sacrifice my sword to save a companion are worthy of bearing it. Take up my blade, young hero. You have my blessing. Then, the wall in front of you slides away. Oh, I had a Warcraft 3 flashback, by the way. For those of you that play the game, you probably know what I'm talking about. Achievement unlocked. +1 keen short sword. What? You carry the sword of Kendrick, the Giant Slayer. Achievement +1. You recovered the sword of Kendrick Giant Slayer. Is a short sword? The last chamber, the true last chamber, is tiny, barely the size of a large closet. Of course, it doesn't need to be very large, for the only thing within it, resting in a niche on the back wall, is the sword of Kendrick Giant Slayer. The sword is still like new, even after nearly 2 centuries in a sealed tomb. Its blade still glitters like fire, its edges still shine with a razor sharpness, and the silver dragon's head worked into its pommel shines as brightly as if it had just come from a jeweler's shop. Your hand seems to close around the grip of its own accord. You swing it experimentally, and it feels like an extension of your own body, seemingly weightless as it cuts through the dusty tomb air. Dame Mildred is waiting for you as you step out. When she sees the sword in your hands, her eyes go wide. Is that, you nod, the sword of Kendrick Giant Slayer? It's every bit as impressive as I thought it would be, she replies, still staring at the legendary blade. Her eyes linger for a few moments and then she turns away. When she meets your gaze, she is once again focused on the task at hand. You've got it. Now let's get back to the city. Sword in hand, you make your way out of the tomb and back into the city. You have no time to waste. You still have an army of bandits to face. I do. Oh, that's the end of chapter 8. Pretty impressive. So let's see how we ended here. Zygmunt, a young man of Kendrickstone, still a squire of Mildred of Son of Mercy, and knight of Kendrickstone. We have loyalty 80%. Rumors and tales, that's the same, no change to this. Compassion 70, order 75. You carry with you the sword of Kendrick Giant Slayer and a sling. You wear a vest of hardened leather reinforced with steel plates. We currently have 386 silver pennies, we are in perfect health, and our high morale confers a +2 bonus to all attributes. So that's pretty impressive. I'm happy about that. Oh, and look at that! I'm so dumb. There are lore skills here. Yeah, we should have checked that before. Lore of the Flowering Court 2. Lore the Empire of Cornwallis, Lore Battle Magic, Peace Magic, Woodcraft 2, Weapons and Armor 2, Literature 2, and Economics 1. Yeah, I should have... Yeah, okay, well this is what I was searching for. You guys ought to tell me. You were commenting about that before and nobody told me about that. Anyway, I'm happy about how this went. We have chapter 9 ahead of us, and I'll see you next time with chapter 9. And like in the stories.